Hi guys, welcome to Digital Tech Join. So in this video I'm going to show you how to create charts dynamically from fetching the data from database and creating various different types of charts like bar chart, line chart and pie chart. So I'm going to use ASP.NET MVC and Visual Studio 2022 .NET Framework 6.0. So for the charts I'm using chart.js, which is an open source HTML based JavaScript charts. I want to show how to create, install and configure your charts in your ASP.NET application, and this is I'm doing dynamically. So this data is getting load from the database, which is MS SQL Server. So let's get started. I'll also show you before I go deep dive into this practical session. I've created a bar chart and then I've created a line chart, then a pie chart and a .NET chart. There are various other types of charts available in chart.js, but this video helps you to get started with creating basic charts, and then you can explore and deep dive to create more advanced charts in your ASP.NET. So let's get started. So we are going to use our Visual Studio 2022 for this project, and I'm using a database SQL Server 2008. You can use the latest version also. I've created a database called the graph demo, and I've created a table called sales data, and I'll just show you the design. It's a basic design where I have an ID, then a month, name and total sale. So this is a data which I've created, and inside the table I've added the following sales data for 6 months. I want to present this in the charts, and I'm going to use the chart.js as I mentioned earlier. So let's get started. I open Visual Studio 2022 and I select ASP.NET Core MVC framework. Click on next and sales data. This is a project and this is the default path. You can select your own path, and this is a solution name, sales data chart, and click on next and tick configure for HTTPS. As of now I'm using framework 6.0 and click on create. So our project is loaded. So we have a default structure provided by .NET. I'll not get into these details, but let's go ahead and first create a database connection to fetch the data from the database. So for that, let's go to our app setting and quickly add the connection string to our database. Connection string, let's name it as default connection. And server, it's local, database is graph demo, and I'm using integrated securities through. If I set as integrated security as false, then I have to provide the username and password of this local instance database, which you can do it. So I've created the connection string, and now let's go ahead and add our model class. So click the model folder, right click, and you say add class, name as sales entity, and using system dot component model dot data annotation, and then define the keys. So we have prop, tap, enter an ID, and then string, name of the field is month name, and then rock tab int tab and total sales. So this is a field and this will be our index. Okay, so our model is ready. Before we start getting into connectivity of database, let's go ahead and add the required packages. Right click on the project, manage NuGet, browse, select type core. So you have to select this entity framework 6.0.5, click on install, click OK, accept. So it got installed. Then you have to select database, so it's SQL Server, so you get this one. Since we are using MS SQL Server database, we are using this library, entity framework core SQL Server. Click on next, install, OK, and I accept. Also use the Razer runtime, so I'll explain what is this for. So you select this one, Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC Razer Runtime Compilation. This is required when you make any changes in your HTML and you want to just refresh and look at the changes without rebuilding the application. So this we might require because we want to refresh as and when the changes are reflecting. So we add this. So we have now added the following libraries, 1, 2 and 3 libraries. So let's go ahead and set up the database connectivity. So since you added the runtime library, just go over here and enable that Razer runtime. Say builder.services.add Razer pages, enter .add Razer runtime compilation. So we have added this, so we'll be able to refresh it. I'll just increase the font size so that it is visible to everybody. Click on font and it's 15 and make it to 16. Okay, now let's go ahead and set up the database connectivity. For that, let's create a folder called data layer. Right click on that, add a class called db contest sales. So this is a db contest class. Make sure you add the Microsoft.entity framework core. Also you add the reference to our model class. Now this class will inherit db contest, and just click on this db contest sales. This option comes in and you select generate constructor for sales. So all this I've explained in my previous chapter, so you can go and refer the videos. I'll paste those in the links about the database connectivity and how you have to connect. So I'm just proceeding fast so that I come to the main subject of creating charts in ASP.NET. Now here you create a db set and you will refer your entity class and provide the table name. So your table name is sales data. So this is sales data. So this is done. Now let's inject this connection string in our program.files. Here select using Microsoft entity code, using you refer your sales data chart dot data layer and using sales data dot models, and then just after the compilation you say builders dot services dot add db contest, and you select your db contest sales which you created, options lambda expression, enter options dot use SQL server, because we use SQL server, and then builder dot configuration dot get connection string and your default connection. This is the name of the string that you have. Okay. So we added the connection. So we have set up the database entity and the database connectivity. Now let's go ahead and add the controller. So we have a default controller home, but for learning purpose and have a better clarity, we are going to add a new controller. Let's select an empty controller and name it as sales records. Okay, sales records or sales record. So this becomes a controller. Now in this controller we have a default action index. Now let's create a new action item called show sales data. This will just return a view. Let's go ahead and add this view into our, select a Razer view empty. So what is the name? It's sales. It's show sales data. So now you can notice that view as a sales record, which is a controller name, and then it has a sales view. Now let's go ahead and now explore our framework called chat. So what is basically, I'm using this framework, which is very well-known JavaScript framework, especially for implementing charts in your project. So chart.js is basically a simple engaging HTML based JavaScript library. It has loads of different types of charts. Let us go ahead and visit the website. So here is a website. It has, if you notice, it has very wonderful and advanced level of charts which you can use it, and the implementation is very simple, and that is the reason I decided to release a video which actually shows this implementation of charts in a very simplified way. So click on get started. I'll just show you what is there in the store. So first of all, we have the installation. Now this is, since it's a JavaScript based framework, you need to include that reference in your project. So reference can be installed by using the node package manager. You can install it. If you look at the installation page, you can use the node package manager, install it. You can use the CDN. You can refer this the reference of the chart in your project, and you can also download it from the GitHub. So for now, what are we going to do is that we are going to refer this in our project directly, but you can also add it and save it offline in your project. So creating chart as follows, this following structure of this implementation. So it has a canvas object, which actually is for drawing elements. So it has a canvas object and it has an ID and the width that you like to hold. Then it has a script object, and then it creates an instance of the chart, and then it has various properties like type of charts, like whether it's a bar chart, line chart, and then data tag, which has the labels and the color of the labels, then data set, which actually holds the actual data. Now in this, they have hard coded this data, and they have also given the background color with some additional options. Now there are loads of things to explore in this. It's just not this code. If you go to the different charts tab, you can see this area chart is there and what parameters to be used and how does it look. If you go to the general tab, you can see all these parameters and options are available. So you can use, these are the different types of charts that you can use it. So without wasting or without getting more into this, let's go and do that implementation. So what are we going to do? If you go to the installation page, Okay, you can see that if you go to chart.js, I'll just show it to you. Okay, this is, if you click on getting started, and then you can get to this page where they are showing you how to create a canvas object and then refer this. So I'm going to refer this library in our project. So if you go to our page, that is view, show sales record, the first thing we are going to do is that we are going to refer the common layout of the project. Views /share / layout.cs. So this view will be referring to our common layout, which is there in views, shared, and this is a layout page. So this is a master page where it has all the link of JavaScript. So basically, if you want, you can either copy the link over here, refer that link over here, or you can also refer the link in the common place, that is going to your shared layout, and in your render body, just above render body, you can paste this. So both the ways you can do it. So our view will first refer this, and now I'm going to show a quick implementation. Like, before we connect to our database and fetch records from database, we will try to just copy and paste this code and show the things in action. So just copy this from this area, because we are okay. So this is a canvas. First you need to copy the canvas, and just, so this will hold the canvas, like, it's a very bigger size, so we just reduce it, and then we copy the script and paste it just below our reference. So let's see this as action. I'll also do one thing. I'll just add this link into our common layout page so that it's easy to access it. So go to your layout page and remove this controller home and add sales record, because this, and then instead of index, click on show sales. Let's also name it, instead of home, let's say sales records, sales progress. Yes. Okay, so there is some exception. Okay. Forgot to add one more panel. So this is done. Fine, so our project is loaded. Let's click on sales progress and see the static graph. See, you can see the graph is loaded. Obviously, it's a very big size, and I'll just try to change and show. Remove this and style. I'll just refresh it. Yes, so you can see it is now quite I think I'll just, so in the start I mentioned about adding the runtime. So I added the runtime only because of this purpose. When you might make any changes in the Razer pages and save it, you're able to just refresh it and you can see the changes. So this is what the graph which we implemented just directly from the sample code. But now our task is to fetch the data from this database and then dynamically render the charts, and also provide an option to generate various types of charts. So let's get started. So we will use the same code and we'll modify it. The first thing we will have to do is that fetching of the data. Now since this is a HTML based code, we'll have to use Ajax call and fetch the data and then bind the data in our chats instead of hard coding it like I've shown in this sample. So let's go to a controller class and create code to fetch the data. Okay guys, so let's first add the mechanism. It will be a HTTP post method and we are going to say public list object. I'll tell you why we are going to use a list object, because we need data in the x-axis as well as y-axis. So there are two data sets required, so we will use the list object and say get sales data. This is a method, and we are going to now write code. Before we write the code, let's refer the database requirement. So we say sales data.data layer using sales data.model class. These two are required. Let's define the DB context layer. So let's say private read only sales underscore context. This is our context class, and then we are going to create a constructor generate constructor, and we are going to use, so we are passing this DB context connection string in a constructor and initializing it. Now we come to our method and we say list object data. This is the main data that we will be having multiple data set. The first is the x-axis, which is required to show the labels, so we call it as labels. This will dynamically come from the database. So basically, if you go to the database, we have this should be displayed in our one of the axis, and this should be displayed in another axis, so that based on the combination our charts will be plotted. So this should be dynamic, obviously, because we are showing for the demo purpose, but tomorrow if you have a dynamic data set, still you will be able to manage this code. So we say labels and we say underscore contest dot our table name sales data. Now select, so we need to select only the month name. So we say lambda expression and p dot sales month name to list. This will hold only, and then we add this to our labels dataset. So there's one dataset prepared. Let's create a second dataset. Now this will be int, and this will be sales number, and this will be the same, but instead of the sales month name, it will be sales number, total sales, right? And then we add this into our data table, and finally we return the data. We return the data. So code is ready. Okay, right now the code just not passing on any parameters, which will gradually upgrade. So we come back to our show data.html. Now here we need to use an Ajax call. So make sure before you use any Ajax call, go to our layout page, and if you see there is in the footer we'll have this, we require to add the jQuery min. You just copy it, either you can paste it on this page here, or you can go to the layout just before the render body, paste this. Okay, so now we'll be able to call Ajax and fetch the data. So what we are going to do is that we are going to remove this entire code. We will going to keep this canvas. Canvas is required, and the canvas ID is my chart. Okay, this reference to our chart.js is required. So we are going to remove this block. So we are going to create a dynamic block where we'll have the type, data, and instead of all this hard coding, we'll fetch it from the database. So let's remove this. Okay, now what are we going to do is that we are going to create one more code. So we want to make sure that when you click on the button, then basically you should be able to show the data. So okay, so here I'm creating a button, input ID and value show graph, and type is button. Fine. Now what are we going to do is that the moment we click the button, we are going to call the Ajax, make an Ajax request to the database, fetch the data, and bind to the create instance of my chart, and then provide the required data set in the format required to generate a chart. So let's do that. So we are going to say, let's also add type over here. It's a good idea to mention the type. Now let's go ahead and add the function. So I'm adding a function, and I'm going to create a event hash ID, and then I click function okay. So now this becomes our structure. So on the click, what is going to happen? On the click, we are going to call an Ajax method. $sign Ajax okay, and now we say type colon, and this will be a post, comma, URL, this will be our controller name, that will be sales record, this one sales record, and function name get sales record slash get sales, comma, data. So data is nothing, it's not having any parameter. If you had any parameter to be passed with get data, you could have passed it over here. And then we have the content type, colon, and this is application slash JSON, and then that's set 8, enter, and data type is JSON, comma, now success. Now what should happen on success? You are calling one more method called on success result, and obviously there can be error, so you say error, so on error. So this is our code for calling an Ajax method. Now once our method is called, okay, on success method, so we just write a function and this on success, whatever data is returned. Okay, so should we go ahead and test our Ajax method first? So let's do that. Instead of first writing the code of the chart, let's go and see whether our Ajax is successfully calling our method. Okay, so put a breakpoint over here so that when we click on the button, our method should be calling, and we should be able to also check whether the properly data is loaded in our list object. I hope guys you are liking this video. I request everybody to like this video and also do subscribe my channel and share my channel with your friends. So yeah, the project is loaded. Click on sales progress. Now let's click on show graph. Yes, so our Ajax code is proper. Let's see whether the data is getting loaded. Yes, so now it is fetching or calling. Okay. Yes, so now if you can see, we were able to fetch the month, and now we add that into a list object, and then we were able to also fetch the sales. So our list object will have two data sets required for x-axis and y-axis. So yes, so this is successfully getting called. Let's go ahead and next step, add code for fetching the data set. As I mentioned in my earlier section, that this will be the same structure which we'll have to follow: type, data, and then the labels and the data. But in this case, they have hard coded it just to show a sample. We are going to be fetching the data from the record set. So now our on success result as data in list object. The first thing we need to do is create a variable for assign the labels and the record set separately. So we say var underscore data, and this will assign this data to over here. Then var underscore data labels, let's call it chart labels. Now underscore data, and you pass index 0. So this will pass in the labels: month, Jan, Feb, March, April, etc. Now similarly, we define one more variable called var underscore chat data. This is the actual sales number. We say underscore data, and we pass index 1. So we have loaded our data now. Now it's time to color our the chart legends. So var our colors, or let's call it legend. I think so for simplicity, let's call it our colors. And then so we have 6 objects over here, like 6, like you need to Jan, Feb, March, April. So we will just for now set a color for them. So we say red, green, blue, orange, and then brown. Blue, orange, brown. So we have 6. So we have 3, 4, and then we can have one more. Okay, so we have defined the color of our legends. Now let's go ahead and actually create the actual code for generating the chart. So we say, so we have a canvas ID, canvas ID called the my chart. So we are going to create an instant. So new char chart, and we have new chart, and we are going to pass this ID which we created, which will render the graph. Okay, and now we say comma, enter, and then first we say type. Here we say bar chart, so we are creating a bar chart by default, comma, data colon, open parenthesis, and pass labels colon, and here this will be your chart labels, comma, and now your data sets colon and box and parenthesis. Now you say background color colon, and then your colors for edges, comma, finally data. So here your chart data goes over here, and then you close this last. So this is your code to render the chart, and we can go ahead now and check the code. So we check this, the data is getting called, list object is getting populated successfully. Now it comes over here. First, since we have to segregate the labels and data, that we did it over here. Then we set the color of our bars, and then we create a new instance of the chart. We say type bar. As of now, we will see in the later session how to dynamically pass variable over here. And then finally we have the data tag, which actually takes label data dynamically, and then also pass in the actual data dynamically from the function called in the Ajax. So this is a small simple code. Now let's see things in action. Click on sales progress. Now click on show graph. So this is our data which will be called. I'm reviewing the breakpoint and executing the project. Okay, so is something wrong? This is chart data, this is a label, and this is a legend. So let's add a breakpoint and see what went wrong over here. My chart. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's go to our console, click on sales graph, click F12 just to see what is the problem. Click on console. So let's refresh once and see what is the error we are getting. So if you notice, we are not getting any error. On success result, and data is passed over here, data is passed over there, and chart labels and chart data. Let me just add a breakpoint to it. Alert underscore data chart data. Okay, now let's refresh. Click on okay. Now I think the button click is working and let me add a alert over here. This is getting called. Whether this method is getting called, let us just check. Let's refresh it, and no, I think so. The success method is not getting called. So there is the success method is not getting called. So this is JSON. Because I got the issue, I've just misspelled it's success, SUCCESS. So this was the issue. So let's remove this and try to run it again. It's not required. I click on save. Now let's refresh it. Let's refresh it once and click on show graph. Yes, you can see. So I've successfully loaded the graph. Let's set the alignment properly. The width is, let's make it 600 pixel. Height is okay. Just refresh it. Yes. So I can see the graph is successfully loaded, and if I make any changes in the database, it will reflect over here. So if I make this to 3000 and I make this to say 10,000 and refresh it once, and then come over here and just refresh it, show graph, you can see the changes is reflecting over here. So it's dynamically loading it. Now the thing is that if you want to add a feature where you can say I want to load a bar chart, a pie chart, a donut chart, and line chart, how do we do that? For that, what we need to do is that we need to create code in JavaScript that will actually give option for the customer to select the type of chart and accordingly pass that over here in the type section. Let's do that. For that, we require some HTML code to be changed so that we give an option to the customer. So already have the code. So this is the code. I'll just copy this. So instead of this button which I created, I copy this code. I'll explain the code to you guys. So there's nothing. I'm just adding a div, adding a label called select chart type. And now in the option, I'm giving this following drop down option. I'll create an HTML object called select, and I'm passing bar, line, pie, and donut. Okay, and the button ID is the same, and then the canvas is also the same. Now what I do at the HTML end is that here on success, okay, once I pass in all the data, I will fetch in the type of chat selected by the user. So here on ID, on click of ID, I'm going to write a code, chart type, $, and hash, and say chart type. Chart type is the name of the drop down which I gave. So this is the name of the drop down, ID, chart type. Okay, and I select this object. So once I have the chart type with me, what I'm going to do is that pass in the same value in my code. So I come over here and remove this and just pass this over there, chart type. Let's see things in action. Guys, if you haven't subscribed my channel yet, I request everybody to subscribe my channel. So yeah, the page is loaded. Now click on sales progress. Now you can see there's an option called chart type. I select bar and then I click on show graph. Okay, now I select line and click on show graph. You notice it is not refreshing. So I'll just do an art refresh, and now I select line. It will show the line chart. Similarly, click on art refresh and then I click on pie. It will show the pie. So every time as a user, I will not be able to refresh it. So we'll have to write a small piece of code over here so that it dynamically renders it whatever option is selected by the user. So for that, I found only one way. I tried doing a very simple option by just resetting that HTML container, the container that is canvas container, but it was not happening. So what I did is that I actually recreated this canvas container every time when the user clicked on the button. So I'll show you the code. So what I did is that this was the container ID, that is my chart. So here I did I removed this because this will not get this height and dimension. I just kept this my ID. I went over here and I said where, and the ID, when you click on the button, it said chat view document dot get element by ID, and I passed this ID my chat. So this is what I did is I'll also have to create a div over here. I missed this point, so we are saying chat view okay. Now inside this chat view div, I add the canvas now. So what I did is that I clicked on this chat view container div and I fetched this on the click of this button, and then I set chat view dot inner HTML. I pass a space and then I recreated it. Chat view dot append and I recreated this one, my chat canvas over here. Canvas ID equals to my chart. Make sure you keep the same name as my chart. Style max depth 750 pixel. Max height is 400 pixel. Then close the bracket and then close the canvas. So this I dynamically created it. So you notice this code, what it does is that it has created a div, and inside the div it has created the canvas. Each time when you click on the button, it will first fetch the chat view div ID, then it will clear the div ID. Okay, So whatever inside that it will not be no, it's basically removing it, and then it creates it appends the same canvas ID inside the div, that is the chat view, with the same name which I have referred it in my chat ID, and it provides the dimensions also. So this is how I created to dynamically reflect the selection of the user. Now let's go ahead and check the things in action. Click on sales progress, select bar chart, click. Okay, so let me just check what is the problem. Invalid token. Line 53. So chat view, get element, chat view. So this is a chat type, this is working fine. Then I say chat view is document.get element ID, and a chat view which is our ID over here. Okay, then chat view dot inner HTML, this is also fine, and then chat view append canvas ID my chat style colon, then colon. I don't think this is required. No, let me just check. Invalid or unexpected token 75. So there is some error over here, and let me comment this for a moment just to identify whether this is an error that is creating an issue in the code. Now you got it. So this is basically we'll have to just revisit the code that is actually appending. Yeah, so let's find it out. It's div ID, and this is chart view, and then there's a canvas and canvas ID, which seems good. Now we come back to our code. This fetches a selection, and then we have our chat view. So I have identified the issue. So issue was that this code is proper. It is fetching the type. It's fetching this chat view container, and then it is actually adding a space to it, removing the canvas ID from here. Now then it appends it, but here I missed out a single quote. So this I missed out over here, and I just want to show that while you are working, be careful on this. Because of the single quote miss, I was facing this error. Now the code should work. I just start the code again, project again. Click on sales progress, we select bar and show. Okay, so here 1 minute. ampersand. So it's ampersand. Refresh. Select bar and click on show. Yes, it is showing a bar chart. Now you select line chart, click on it, shows a line chart. You select pie, it shows a pie chart. You select donut and it selects the donut chart. So now you are able to see that dynamically it is generating the records. Now if you look at the code once again, I'll just enlarge the code area and remove the space which I used for debugging. So this is your HTML code where you are giving option for customer to select the type of chart you want to generate. This is your canvas. Initially we had a single canvas, but then in order to refresh it on the selection of the type of chart, we had to create a div ID and place the canvas inside it, so that we can reset it and map it the canvas every time when you click on the button. This is your chart.js reference. We can store it offline also. And this is actually your main JavaScript code, where on click of the button you are selecting the type, and also you're refreshing the canvas area. Then you're calling an Ajax method and fetching the data in list object. Then on success you are actually assigning the data, and this is the actual code which appends the data dynamically in your graph object and generates the graph. So type of graph which comes dynamically, and data, it populates the label and then the color and the data object, and the end result is this beautiful output which you can see and use it in your projects with confidence, and how to implement it in a very simple and easy language. I hope guys you like this video. Please do like and share my videos, subscribe my channel, share it with your tech buddies, your friends, your relatives, and help me to grow the channel so that everybody benefited by looking at and learning all these new things and easy implementation of all the concepts. Thank you for your time.